And welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast, your encyclopedia for the college basketball season. We got a busy show today. We had a wild Wednesday last night. We're recording this Thursday night, right about 7 o'clock. So we don't have a lot of games to talk about that's going to happen on Thursday night. So we do have a full 68 team bracketology. We're going to do a little March preview where your team stands. It's pretty solidified right now. There are clear gaps in terms of last four in. First four outs, we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about the seed line changes from the games on Wednesday, including, as you can see on the graphic, Wake Forest, Texas, and Oklahoma suffering some costly losses. We'll talk about what their chances might be to get into the bubble watch. And then, of course, we will give a weekend preview. We have a loaded Saturday, as usual. We even have a good game on Friday, and then Sunday we've got some good ones as well. So be sure to follow us on social media at Bracket Science with two S's. That's Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button as well. It just really helps us out. And without further ado, let's get into Wednesday's results real quickly. Just going down the list in numerical order, talking about some of the results that occurred. Number one, Auburn hosted Ole Miss and just dominated 106-76. They saw Duke just dominate Illinois, who's like probably, an 8 seed. And they said, yeah, we'll do the same thing to a 7 seed. Now, Duke's was on a neutral floor. This one at Auburn, obviously, but fantastic win, 106-76. Not much to talk about there. Ole Miss is right on the 7 line right now. Number 7, St. John's wins at Butler. Why is this important? Because St. John's clinches at least a share of the Big East title regular season this season. Incredible stuff there. But the game of the night, number 8, Michigan State goes to number 16, Maryland, wins 58-55 thanks to a Trey Holloman beyond half court buzzer beater. As time expires, Michigan State led pretty much the whole game. And then I'm sure everyone has seen the video. Trey Holloman, he turns the ball over horrendously late in the game. Maryland knocks down 2 free throws. Michigan State has a shot to, potentially go ahead. Jackson Culler kind of misses a little bit of a bunny. Maryland comes down. It looks like at worst, you're thinking overtime. They take the shot with Gillespie takes the shot with maybe, 4 seconds left. Misses off the front of the rim, rebound to Culler, handoff Trey Holloman, beyond half court, just absolute nothing but net. The biggest shot we've seen so far this year. That Caleb Love one was pretty big, but so was this one to win the game for Michigan State. Incredible stuff. We'll talk about these 2 seed lines here in a bit. The most underrated game of the night. Vanderbilt goes to number 12, Texas A&M, and picks up a victory, 86-84. Vanderbilt is comfortably in the field right now. I think this is the type of win that gets you in the field. Like their metrics, the predictive metrics, and even their strength of record isn't as awesome as you think. Their non-con didn't play the toughest strength of schedule, but they're holding their own in the SEC. They're right in the middle of the pack. They're better than Oklahoma. They're better than Georgia, than Texas. Then you can even make the argument probably Arkansas. This team's going to be in the tournament. They're not a surefire lock yet, but you're at about, probably 99% chance that Vanderbilt's going to be in the tournament, and they deserve to do so. Number 17, Kentucky escaped one at Oklahoma, the Otega-Oweh return game. And my goodness, did he go off. Career high 28 points, scored Kentucky's 21 of their last 23 points. Otega-Oweh went crazy. There was a lot of trash talking in this game. It was a highly anticipated game, bringing back Otega-Oweh. And he just popped off. Brandon Garrison got into it late with fears, and saw a couple videos of like beer cans being thrown at Kentucky players. That's not cool, but Kentucky leaves with the last laugh. Good win there, thanks to basically Otega-Oweh, who came back. Number 25, BYU wins at Arizona State. No surprise here. Why is this? What does this mean? BYU is now a lock. They are going to be in the NCAA tournament. How about BYU and the job that's going on over there? Texas and Arkansas took place in a bubbly double bubble game. Arkansas led the entire way. Texas fought back thanks to, my goodness, Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson goes for 39, but Arkansas escapes in overtime, 86-81. Arkansas without Adu Thiero in this game. Jonas Adu kind of came up big late. Arkansas comfortably in the tournament. Texas is outside looking in. We talked last podcast about when are they going to really start having the conversation about Rodney Terry. Now, this is just from what I heard, according to Matt Norlander over at CBS. So I've been kind of saying this for a while about Texas and Rodney Terry. Like, this is too big of a brand that there is a potential. Matt Norlander said he's going to be covering a report on the hot seat, the hottest of seats coming up this offseason, and Rodney Terry is on that list. He's going to cover Rodney Terry. So just kind of going into the fact that we kind of assumed. I mean, it's a great job, a great brand, and just not living up to the expectation there. Trey Johnson, 39 points, though. My goodness, breaks Kevin Durant's freshman record. He had 37 quite a few times, but Trey Johnson, 39, going to be a stud in the NBA. Utah State loses at Boise State, 82-65. So New Mexico now in first place in the Mountain West. Boise State, I've been seeing some people move them in. It's a great win. Don't get me wrong. It's a quad 2 win at home. It's not like the thing to boost you. Like, you win at, I don't know, you win at Michigan State or something. Obviously that wouldn't happen in the Mountain West, but it wasn't like a resume, but it just kind of kept them in it, in my opinion. I still have them out comfortably. Their non-conference was not good. And we saw what the committee did last year with the Mountain West. They kind of treated them as mid-majors, just eating each other up in conference play, and really valued their non-conference play. But so we'll see what that means for Boise State's chances this upcoming Selection Sunday. But I have them on the outside looking in. But great win, good start. Ohio State wins at USC 87-82. Ohio State needed this win badly. This is a quad 1 win on the road. Good stuff there for Ohio State, keeping their tournament chances alive. Virginia goes to Wake Forest. This was the most costly of them all. Wake Forest loses at home to Virginia. If there's one thing you cannot do, it's lose at home to Virginia. Quad 3 loss, get Wake Forest out of the tournament. This team does not deserve to get in. Their whole argument was, hey, we beat teams that we should beat. Yeah, well, not anymore. Doesn't seem like that. Get Wake Forest out of the tournament. Georgetown goes to UConn. UConn wins 93-79. Penn State goes to Indiana. Indiana holds them off 83-78. Comfortably, in my opinion, in the tournament as of right now. All right, that's the only games we had to talk about. Let's dive right into our seed list. Here is our seed list. We've had a lot of changes. So as mentioned, there is a couple games going on Thursday night. It shouldn't really change anything whatsoever. Michigan is playing. They're hosting Rutgers. Shouldn't really change too much. And then there is like some mid-major stuff that might change. Like Chattanooga is playing UNC Greensboro, and Liberty is playing Jacksonville State. So some things might change in the mid-major world, but in terms of the top seeds, nothing really should change. So your 1 seeds right now, Auburn, Duke, and Alabama pretty much solidified. And then I do have Houston as the 4th number 1 seed. As of right now, I think they're there. There's an argument to be made for Florida and Tennessee, and I do see the argument. Now, I did move Houston to the 1 line after their win at Texas Tech. With that win at Texas Tech, they did pick up that quad 1 win, but they also lost a quad 1 win because Baylor moved outside of the top 30 in the net. So that is now a quad 2 game. But nevertheless, they're number 1 at Torvik. They're number 3 at Ken Palm, number 2 in the BPI, and the resume averages, strength of record, wins against bubble, and KPI average is at 4.3. So pretty much solidified as a 1 seed, in my opinion. First 2 seed to me is Tennessee and Florida. We talked about them on the last podcast about why I have Tennessee a little bit ahead Florida. It's strictly because of the quad 1A and quad 1 aspect. Metrics, very close. Resume averages, Tennessee is 4. Florida is 4.7. Predictive averages, Florida is 4.7 once again. Tennessee is 5, but so it's very similar. But then when you go to quad 1A, Florida's 4-4, Tennessee 6-4. Quad 1, Florida is 5-4, and Tennessee's 9-5. Not really even an argument, in my opinion. I think Tennessee is a little bit ahead. If you want to think Florida's a better team, I'm not going to argue with you, but resume-wise, statistic-wise, I would take Tennessee as that 2 seed. Michigan State solidified as the 3rd number 2 seed right now. After that win at Maryland, they now have 9 quad 1 wins. How about that? That's tied for 3rd in the country, just behind Auburn and Alabama. Wisconsin is now solidified as that last 2 seed, not because they played and went and, picked up a huge win, but because Texas A&M lost, Iowa State lost, Kentucky won, but Kentucky lost a couple games last week. St. John's in that conversation, but it is solidified as Wisconsin right now. So in the 3 seed range, St. John's, the projected winner. If you see this asterisk, that is the projected winner of their respective conference. So St. John's in first place in the Big East. First 3 seed, Kentucky as the second 3 seed, also with 9 quadrant 1 wins. A lot of people wondering, why is Kentucky a 3 seed? They haven't, they're 8-7 in the SEC right now. Yeah, they're 6-6 in quad 1A games, which is just absolutely incredible. That's so basically quad 1A is just the top half of quad 1 games, and essentially with a little bit of change there, but it's pretty much top half of quad 1A, and that's fantastic. If you have 6 quad 1A wins, that's awesome. Like Alabama has 8 and Auburn has 9, which is just ridiculous. But then next is Kentucky with 6, them and Tennessee. So moving through this, Iowa State still solidified as a 3 seed. They kind of just scream 3 seed to me. They just look like a 3 seed team to me, in my opinion. Great team when healthy. Got to get healthy though. Texas A&M now drops to the last 3 seed. We talked last podcast that their resume is a little bit everywhere, but it is good. Still have them as a 3 seed. 4 seeds Arizona. These actually did not change since our last 4 days ago was our last seed list. This has not changed because nothing really too crazy has happened. Arizona, Michigan, Texas Tech, and Purdue. Yes, Purdue is still there. They have dropped 4 in a row. I understand that, but when you look at their overall body of work, their resume averages is a 17.3, so 17th in wins against bubble, 25th in strength of record, and 10th in KPI, so that averages out to 17.3. Puts them right about fringe 4-5 seed, and in their predictive metrics, 18 in the BPI, 17 at KenPom, 11th at Torvik for a average of 15.3. So combined 15.3 and 17.3, you get about 16, which is just about a 4 seed. So they're pretty much about a 4 seed across the board. They also have 7 quad 1 wins and 7 quad 2 wins, 14 and 9 inside the first 2 quadrants. I know they haven't been playing good, but their resume is still better than those of the 5 seeds right now. Your 5 seeds, Missouri, who is flying just as high as Missouri fans can fly right now. This has been just an unbelievable turnaround from 0-18. They have the 10th best odds to win the national championship right now. Missouri, after going 0-18 in conference play last year, absolutely absurd turnaround. Good for Missouri. Clemson as your second 5 seed. Yes, they have climbed a lot. Their resume averages have been great. They've climbed up to an average of 17 in the resume. So just reminding you, that's KenPom, KPI, strength of record, and wins against bubble. Averages out to 17 averages out to 17. And their quality, which is your predictive metrics, BPI, KenPom, Torvik, averages out to 18.7. So averages about 18, right about a 5 seed. 5 times 4 is 20. So the last 5 seed would be 20. They're the 20th ranked team. Maryland, right behind them, comfortably as a 5 seed. They kind of scream 5 seed to me as well. I think they're going to end up being a 4 or a 5 seed, 4 through 6. If they drop to 6, I wouldn't be too surprised, but still right there. And then St. Mary's up to a 5 seed. They also kind of just scream 5 seed to me. This St. Mary's team is so good. I'm very excited to see them in March Madness this year. I do not think they're going to get upset this year. I think this team is too good to lose early like they did last year to Grand Canyon. Same thing with them, just kind of a 5 seed across the board. 20.3 resume average, 21.3 predictive average. So right on that fringe 5-6 line, but got them as the last 5 seed. First 6 seed is Marquette. Marquette kind of fallen off a cliff as of late. This is going to be a popular team to pick against come March Madness, quite frankly. Kansas is still in the scenario as a 6 seed. They're going to be in the tournament. I understand they have not been playing well. They're going to be in the tournament. Louisville as your next 6 seed, along with Oregon. 2 teams that, just doing business, taking care of business, not like, I don't think anyone sees them as, maybe some see them as Final Four contenders, but just good teams might win a game in March. 7 seeds, Mississippi State drops all the way to a 7 seed. Their predictive averages have gone down like crazy. They were up to like 10th in the net at one point, I think, or 10 to 12 or something. Their resume or their predictive averages are now down to 33rd, 31st at KenPom, 32 at Torvik, 36th at in BPI, and 30th at the net. Yeah, it's been kind of a fall off. Mississippi State, just we've said it before, we'll say it again. They're probably under Chris Jans going to be a 5 to 9 seed every single year. That's just what they do. They just got bamboozled by Alabama, which is what led to that little bit of a downfall. But good program, good coach, not an elite program. 7 seed UCLA as your next 7 seed. Kind of one of those that I think is going to end up being a 6 seed, honestly. But I think they'll be anywhere from the 6 or 7 line. Next 7 seed is Memphis, the projected winner out of the AAC, just kind of doing what they need to do. They escaped Rice the other day, but they're going to be in the tournament. Been getting asked a lot of questions why we do a a thing on our social media, locks, bubble watch, and like basically locks or not, we call it. So I lock up a bunch of teams where if you could lose every single game, you're for the rest of the season, you're locked in the tournament. Memphis could not do that because they're playing in the AAC and their remaining schedule is so bad that these would be quad 3, quad 4 losses. They're going to be in. It's like a 99% chance. Like they're not going to lose. But Memphis still in that 7 seed category, would be a dangerous 7 seed. And then Ole Miss drops to our last 7 seed. Ole Miss starting to kind of fall off a little bit of a cliff here. Resume averages of 27.7 for the predictives in 22. So I'm right about that 7 line. On the 8 line, we have Creighton, Illinois, BYU, and New Mexico. So the 8 seeds kind of, on that verge of being locks. Illinois and Creighton they're going to be in, like 99% chance. They're as close to a lock as you can be. BYU's going to be in. New Mexico's 99% chance going to get in. These teams don't have to worry whatsoever. Even the 9 seeds, we'll have a conversation about the last 2 9 seeds, but the first 2, Utah State and Vanderbilt, they're pretty comfortably in. I wouldn't be too worried about them. UConn and Gonzaga are a little bit of a different scenario. Let's talk about UConn just because they're a huge brand. First off, they're 35th in the net, 34th in strength of record, 41st in wins against bubble. Their resume averages are 41.3. That's very bubbly. Their predictive metrics are a little bit better. They're 22 at BPI. And if you missed our little rant on BPI, I'll just give you a little breakdown of what BPI is. For those who have seen those horrendous stats by ESPN of, Pitt has a 70% chance to get in or whatever it is. This is coming from the BPI because BPI still includes preseason bias, basically. They predict the teams and then they go off of that. Other predictive metrics like KenPom, Torvik, and the net, they weed out that preseason bias, as you should. Like right now, there's basically no preseason bias at KenPom or Torvik. And so the BPI still has that. So that's why these teams like the North Carolinas that were ranked high in the preseason, the Kansases, are going to be like predicted as like 3 or 4 seeds. Like Kansas predicted as like a 3 or 4 seed by the BPI. So wouldn't look too much into that, although it is still on the team sheet metric. So that's why UConn is up at 22 in that. They're 37th at KenPom, 41 at Torvik. They are like they're going to be in the tournament. I'm confident saying that, but it's a little closer than you might expect. And it is also a little closer for Gonzaga, who is 8th in the net because they play in the WCC and just blow out teams other than St. Mary's. They are 8th in the net, 9th at KenPom, 12th at Torvik. They're a good team, don't get me wrong, but their resume averages are not good. 48th in strength of record, 43rd in wins against bubble. And that actually climbed a lot once they beat Santa Clara. Without that Santa Clara win, I think they'd have been a 10 seed. I think they'd have been behind San Diego State. But with that, I have them as the last 9 seed right now. 10 seeds, San Diego State, I'm not worried about them at all. I think they're going to get into the tournament. Same goes for West Virginia. I think they're going to get in the tournament. I am a little bit more worried about Baylor. Baylor, they lost Josh Ojamwina, as we mentioned. Their predictive metrics are pretty good with an average of 27. So 30th at KenPom, they're 20th in BPI because they were highly ranked in the preseason. And then 31st at Torvik. So, those are pretty good. Those get you in based off that. But when you look at the resume, 39th in strength of record, 42nd in wins against bubble. Their resume averages are 44. They're 1-9 in quad 1A. They cannot beat the elite team. They're 5-10 in quad 1, so not bad. 3-1 in quad 2, 8-11 in the first 2 quadrants that combines to. That's a little close. If the bubble wasn't so bad this year, we'd be having maybe another conversation about Baylor. And they also do have a quad 3 loss. I think they're in just because of how bad the bubble is. I have them as a last 4 bye team. A team their resume is interesting to me. Nebraska. Let's talk about Nebraska real quick because they are in our last 4 buys as well. So the predictives don't like them. Average of 51. So they are 52nd at BPI, 47th at KenPom, 54th at Torvik. That's not great. Strength of record, 49th. Wins against bubble, 44th. KPI, 37th for an average of 43.3. Do the math. There's usually, depending on bid stealers, you're looking at 35, 36 at-large candidates. So usually you want to be around that 41, 42 range, I would say. So they're 43 right now, yet they have elite wins. They won at Creighton. They've picked up some big ones. They're 5-9 in quad 1, which is pretty good for a bubble team. 4-2. That's 9-11 in the first 2 quadrants. which is better than Baylor's 8-11. West Virginia's 8-11. West Virginia has a lot of quad one A wins, though, which is what's keeping them a little bit higher. But Nebraska is kind of in an interesting scenario here where their predictives aren't great at all. The resume is just good enough to get them in, but with this weak bubble, I think they're hanging on to a 10 seed right now. 11 seeds, Arkansas, Drake. These are your first two 11 seeds. So Arkansas is our last bye team, and Drake as the projected winner of the Missouri Valley. So let's switch graphics real quick. Let's head over to the bubble graphic, and let's just talk about this so you can have a little clearer picture. The last four byes, as mentioned, West Virginia, I'm not too worried about them. Baylor, Nebraska, Arkansas, they're playing all right. The first four, so the teams that would be going to Dayton to play, Georgia and VCU as these first two teams, and then Indiana and Ohio State. Do have Ohio State just above Oklahoma. So in this scenario, going back to the other graphic, just so two Big Tens don't play, I would have Georgia playing Indiana and then VCU playing Ohio State. So Ohio State is your last team in. Oklahoma is your first team out. Let's compare their resumes just real quick. Here's what you got. Blind resume. Oklahoma 17-11. Ohio State 16-13. Oklahoma with a little bit of the favor there. Ohio State's strength of schedule is 13th. Oklahoma 16th. Both pretty solid. Give the edge to Ohio State there. Ohio State is better in the net, in KenPom, and at Torvik by a long shot. So their predictives are a lot better. But when you go to overall strength of record, Oklahoma's is a little bit better. Wins against bubble, Oklahoma's is a little bit better. So these are all different metrics. So it's not like just because someone has a strength of record, they deserve to be in. No, it's all in that metric variable. But when you really break it down and you go to quad 1A, Ohio State's 3-7, Oklahoma's 3-8. You might say, yeah, if Ohio State plays one more game in quad 1A, they'll probably be 3-8. True. So, take that one with a grain of salt. Quad 2 does lean Ohio State 6-9. Or quad 1, overall, they're 6-9. Quad 1, Oklahoma is 5-9, so one more win. That is a big difference. When you're looking at it like this, that is a huge difference. Quad 2, I didn't give anyone the lead because Oklahoma is 3-1 and Ohio State's 6-4, 4 games played compared to 10, a little bit different. So I didn't highlight anything there. But when you go to quad 3/4 losses, Oklahoma does have one. Ohio State does not have one. Because of the quad 1, don't worry about the quad 1A right now because, like we said, Ohio State could very easily lose another one. Quad 1 with one more quad 1 win and one less quad 3/4 loss, I would take Ohio State in this scenario. It is very close. I will admit I would give it to Ohio State. Ohio State has also kind of proven they beat Kentucky by 20 on a neutral. They won at Purdue. Oklahoma's resume isn't quite as awesome. They haven't beaten anyone incredibly elite. They beat Louisville on a neutral site, but not on the same level as Purdue and Kentucky. I might be missing a Oklahoma loss or a Oklahoma big win in the non-con, but they won the battle for Atlantis. That takes a lot. So it's really close. I lean Ohio State right now. Your next team out is North Carolina, then Boise State. Texas as your fourth team out. I don't think Texas deserves to be in whatsoever. Let's talk about them because they're a big brand. 56th in resume averages, 56th in strength of record, 51st in wins against bubble, and 61st in KPI, which is just another basic, strength of record based metric. They're 40.7 average in predictive metrics, most of that being carried by their 33rd at BPI, which we mentioned is about as bad of a metric as there is. They're 4-9 in quad 1, which is the exact same as the likes of Arkansas, but Arkansas has played a tougher schedule and has better predictive. So that's why it's keeping Texas out at the moment in time. Wake Forest now to our next 4 out. I think that pretty much the next 4 out, like I'd give them a 5 to 10% chance to somehow get in. Cincinnati has a little better chance because they have like the hardest game you can play coming up, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But the next 4 out, like you're at this point in the season, it's going to take a ton of work. Like you're going to have to win out and probably make your conference championship game while probably beating someone elite. So Wake Forest, they dug themselves this own hole. They haven't been great all year. It's been a disappointing team in my opinion. Cincinnati, same boat. I mean, they were pre-seed. They got up to 16 in the AP poll. This team had a lot of hype. They are playing a lot better as of late. I will give them that, but Still in the next 4 out, as is Xavier. Xavier's dealt with a lot of injuries. Xavier deals with injuries every single year. And then SMU as your next 4 out. This team should be nowhere near the tournament. And then the next team I will just mention that I think has a sliver of hope is San Francisco. They got a big one coming up on Saturday, which we'll talk about. So back to the seed list, the 11 seeds as a reminder: Arkansas, Drake, then Georgia versus Indiana, VCU versus Ohio State. So moving on to the 12 seeds, UC San Diego out of the Big West. They could very easily end up being an 11 seed depending on where this bubble ends up. George Mason as a 12 seed, the automatic qualifier out of the A10. So you might say VCU is the heavy favorite to win the A10. Yeah, but I also wanted to throw VCU in the convert because I still think VCU would be in right now if these two teams are tied atop. So I gave it to George Mason just so VCU, both teams are in. It looks good for the A10, and just wanted to, like, George Mason would probably be next 4 out, maybe first, maybe fourth or fifth team out, but probably next 4 out. Don't have as good a chance as VCU. 12-seeded Yale. Yale is undefeated in the Ivy League right now, by the way. They're playing good. I still don't think this team's as good as last year's Yale team, but still a team you do not want to face as a 5 seed. And then the last 12 seed is McNeese. First 13 seed is High Point. High Point is on an absolute heater right now. I mean, we say this on every show. We'll say it again. This is predicting every single favorite wins the conference. So say, Yale doesn't win and Columbia wins. High Point would jump Columbia. High Point has a better resume than Columbia, so that would move High Point to a 12 seed. So this is predicting all the favorites. So I think High Point will end up a 12 seed. And I think this is going to be your sneaky mid-major team that might really do some damage. No one's really talking about High Point. A lot of love to VCU, Drake, and UC San Diego, as there should be. High Point's that team. They're getting healthy right now. They are playing elite basketball. Akron out of the MAC as your next 13 seed. They'll be battling with the likes of Miami, Toledo, Kent State, Ohio. Pretty good Akron team this year. Lipscomb out of the ASUN, and then Chattanooga out of the SoCon. We mentioned Chattanooga taking on UNC Greensboro tonight for the top of the SoCon. Chattanooga has a half-game lead right now. 14 seeds out of the Sun Belt, James Madison. James Madison on an absolute heater right now, playing good ball. Jacksonville State out of Conference USA, as mentioned, they play Liberty. In fact, they are like 7.5-point underdogs at Liberty today. If Liberty wins, Liberty will probably they'll be fringe 12, 13 seed. I'm not sure if they'd be higher than McNeese or Yale. I'd have to crunch the numbers, but Liberty is the best team in Conference USA, but Jacksonville State is atop the standings right now. Utah Valley out of the WAC could also be Grand Canyon, and then Towson out of the CAA could be the likes of UNC Wilmington, could be Charleston, numerous other teams. Drexel's pretty good. That'll be a fun one. Moving on to the 15 seeds, Montana, the Grizzlies. How about them? They're playing some good ball as of late right now. Thought they were going to be better than they were in the non-con. Saw them get just bamboozled by Tennessee, but have been playing better as of late. Bryant out of the America East could also be UMass Lowell, could also be Vermont, who's pretty much won the conference tournament every year, it seems. Robert Morris out of the Horizon playing really good ball right now. They would be a team where if they played Michigan State or a Wisconsin, not like they're going to beat them, but if they're 25.5-point underdogs, I think I would bet Robert Morris plus 25.5. I kind of like this team. Central Connecticut State as your final 15 seed out of the NEC. Then your 16 seeds, Norfolk State. Omaha out of the Summit could also be South Dakota State or North Dakota State. Marist taking on Southern in a play-in game, and then SEMO, Southeast Missouri State taking on American. That is your entire bracketology seed list as we would have it right now. That is it for all of this bracketology. So this is where it stands right now. I feel very comfortable with this seed list. It kind of just flowed easily. There was a gap between pretty much every team that I thought was at least somewhat notable. Some you really got to crunch the numbers, but this is what I would be very confident in. I wish the tournament started tomorrow, because turning in this for to get graded on for overall accuracy, I think would have been fairly easy for bracketologists this year. So let's move on to just the week preview, some games to know. As mentioned, we're recording this Thursday, so we're not going to talk about Thursday's action. But on Friday at 8 o'clock on Fox, UCLA goes to number 20 Purdue. This is a good one. As we mentioned, Purdue has lost 4 in a row, looking to rebound. UCLA does not do too well on the East Coast, yet they're pretty much unbeatable on the West Coast. That'll be a fun one. And 9 o'clock on ESPN2. For those who love mid-major hoops, go watch this game. 9 o'clock, Kent State goes to Akron. This is a rivalry game. It is always an electric environment. I might head up there and go check out this game. This is going to be an electric atmosphere, and two very good teams. These teams faced off last year in the MAC championship game to get into March Madness. Remember, it was the Kent player that fouled when they were actually up a point. He thought they were down a point, and then Akron ended up winning the game. It was tough, but it's always a fun game, big rivalry game, only about 15 minutes away from each other. Moving on to Saturday, which is the day to know, starting at 1:00 on ABC. Look at these networks we got. I mean, we got tons on ESPN. We got Fox, we got CBS, we got ABC, all the major networks. Number 1, Auburn travels to Rupp Arena in number 17, Kentucky. Auburn is favored by 5 on the road. Auburn has the most quad 1 wins. Kentucky is tied for 3rd in quad 1 wins. So two teams that can beat just about anyone. I don't think I will ever bet against Auburn, but that's an interesting one. Tough one on the road. At 2:00 on ESPN, number 10, Texas Tech goes to Kansas, unranked Jayhawks. They are favored by 1 at home, though. I expect that line to grow a little bit, maybe 2.5, 3.5, being at Fall Allen Fieldhouse on national TV. Will they be able to, come together as a team and finally pick up a win that fans say, hey, that looks like a good basketball team? At 4:00 on ESPN, a top 6 matchup, Alabama and their electric offense, who has just been on a heater lately, goes to number 5, Tennessee, and their electric defense. Tennessee favored by 5. Alabama, in my opinion, the best offense in the country. Tennessee, in my opinion, the best defense in the country. Tennessee favored by 5 at home. I would have no idea how to take this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. At 4:30 on CBS, we mentioned Cincinnati has an opportunity to really turn some heads. At number 4, Houston. Houston is favored by 16 at home. Cincinnati, you pretty much got to win this game, and this is not a spot you want to see yourself in. If you keep it competitive, maybe it looks good to the committee, and you make a run to the Big 12 championship game, but I would not want to be in this scenario. At 4:30 on Fox, Creighton goes to Xavier. Xavier in desperate need of some wins. The bad news, it's only a quad 2 game. Creighton is 37th in the net, so this is only a quad 2 game. Xavier is favored by 1 at home. At 6:00 on the SEC Network, number 14, Missouri, the biggest turnaround ever, it seems, travels to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt I love this Vanderbilt team. I really do. I have really grown on Mark Byington. There was so much talk in the offseason about, who would be the best new coach. Obviously, Mark Pope's been awesome. Obviously, Pat Kelsey's been awesome. They're probably the 2 biggest brands that got new coaches, unless I feel like I'm missing someone. But Vanderbilt just flying under the radar. What Mark Byington has done there, he's done more with, a program that isn't expected to be this good, and they are. So I'm really, really like the story over there for Mark Byington. That's at 6:00 on the SC Network. Missouri favored by 3. At 8:00 on ESPN2, a bubble game. Georgia travels to Texas. Remember, Texas in our first 4 out, Georgia in our last 4 in. Texas is favored by 7 at home in that one. They need it. If they lose that game, might be some real consequences for Rodney Terry in that one. At 8:30 on the SEC Network, a top 12 matchup. Number 12, Texas A&M, coming off that loss to Vanderbilt, goes to number 3, Florida, who is also coming off of that loss to Georgia. Florida's favored by 10 at home in that one. 2 teams coming off a loss. Tough spot there for Texas A&M, taking on a Florida team that's hungry. At 9:00 on ESPN, number 22, Arizona travels to number 9, Iowa State. Iowa State is favored by 4 in that game. Kind of the battle for who's the second best team in the Big 12. Or you might consider Texas Tech and BYU in that conversation. Who would have thought we wouldn't be talking about Kansas or Baylor as maybe even the second best team in the conference? Iowa State favored by 4. At 10:00 on ESPN2, speaking of BYU, they're number 25 in the country, and they host West Virginia. Feels like an 8-9 game, doesn't it? BYU's favored by 8 at home. I know they can't play each other because they're both in the Big 12, but 2 just teams that I'm fairly confident will both be an 8 or a 9 seed. But as mentioned, BYU favored by 8. Then at 11:00 on ESPN, Gonzaga goes to San Francisco. San Francisco with an opportunity here to get in position to maybe be in position, pick up a quad 1 win. This would be a quad 1A win. Quad 1A wins at home or against top 15 teams in the net. Gonzaga is not a top 15 team, but in the net they are. They are actually, what did we just say they are? They're 8th in the net. That's a quad 1A game, and they're not even close to being ranked because they're strength of record and metric stuff isn't that good, but Gonzaga is favored by 7 on the road. Good opportunity here for San Francisco. Alrighty, that is going to do it for the show today. Thanks to everyone here who stuck with us. I know this camera quality is a little bit low. We're getting a new camera, I promise. So hopefully you didn't have to look at that too much. We are going to come back and talk on Monday morning. So, Monday morning or Monday around 11, we're going to schedule it. What we're going to try and do is do a Bracketology fan mail sort of thing where you ask questions. You can come in live to the chat. We're going to do it live. I think I figured out this program enough to be able to do it live. So I want everyone to come in there. We're also going to post on our social medias on Sunday, posting some questions. If you can't be there for the live, I understand people got to work on Mondays. I don't. Golf Pros off on Mondays. So if you want to label some questions and I'll label them for you, can go back to watch later. I'll give you credit, put your names on there and everything. Talk about some of the questions that you have in terms of seed lines, what your team might be able to do to get into the tournament, what your team can't do to, eventually miss the tournament. So we'll post all about that on our social medias at Bracket Science with 2 S's. So go check that out. Everyone have a terrific rest of the week. Talk to you soon. Take care.